What's up everyone, Sketchwits Gaming here. Welcome to my review of Digimon Ghost Game. It's been quite an interesting series so far, and I want to actually get on this before the final happens because that will very likely be another video as I review it. But the fact is that most of Digimon Ghost Game has actually gone by, and we are now closing to the ending of the series, which is pretty cool honestly. This is actually one of the longest series of Digimon so far. If we're not counting Digicross Wars Season 1 and 2, it's actually one of the longest in the entire franchise, and that's quite amazing. It's quite an accomplishment actually. Normally they wrap it up by like episode 52 I believe, but they managed to keep it going, and that's surprising with their episodic format because today I'm actually going to be reviewing the impact on that and my feelings about the season and honestly what they could have done better. So I hope things don't get too personal, at least not for me and you guys, but as always I hope you enjoy. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. And if I'm being honest, I just couldn't help but have the impulse to have Kiyoshiro like dancing right here to the intro music. It's one of the best gifts that Jade Azura has actually put in here so far. But as usual, I'm going to be scrolling up or down this Tumblr because let's have a little fun, shall we? And I want to show the whole thing off because this guy has a cool Tumblr. But in any case, Digimon Ghost Game actually had a pretty good start in my opinion. They had good animation, they have a good art style, it's crisp, it's clean, it's actually one of the cleanest ones so far. And honestly, the thing that this season progressed in and excelled at was consistency. No matter what episode it was, even if the animation was less quality or choppy at times, it had very good consistency, and I have to say that's something I actually appreciate in what's essentially a kids show, because most companies put kids shows out there nowadays and they don't care about the quality of it. And to see like Digimon Ghost Game continuing like to put more effort in each episode, even though each episode's technically a filler episode since it doesn't have any lore in it, is a nice touch honestly. But in any case, I want to talk about what Digimon did good, and I want to talk about what it lacked in this case, and then I'll talk about what's bad about it or why it was disappointing. So in any case, the animation is very nice. I believe that it's about 24 to 26 frames per second, as usual with animations. And it really did bring these Digimon to life and show what they're capable of, especially this guy. I forgot his name, but he's essentially dead and absorbed dead data or whatever. So, wow, Rareramon. Doesn't get any rarer than that. But in any case, the animation really did bring the Digimon to life in this season, and it really did help with the expressions because sometimes they're just standing still for some parts. But especially in the case of Jellymon, she was very lively, and it really helped out the season for me and like watching it. Close up of the main character here. But in any case, I think that the animation was actually very complemented by the art style. It goes very well together actually. And I like the nice touch they have here of having these spheres here that were here in like the season, well, the first, second, and the season 2020 reboot of Digimon. Those are actually, I believe, a homage to Gaiamon, one of the most powerful Digimon to exist, but it never actually physically manifests unless you're counting Appmon. I personally don't because I haven't watched the series yet, but I consider Digimon spinoff. But that's kind of on the side though. Something I do want to say though, is that this show had a very good start. Quite possibly one of the best starts in the entire series. It had good lore, it was coming right off the backside of Digimon Adventure 2020. The reboot was actually very good, and there actually was a homage and an Easter egg to it with Zed Millenniumon showing up here. But in any case, that's basically it actually. The show's good, it's got a good episodic formula, it sticks to it, and it actually could have worked out very well if it weren't for what I'm about to talk about next, which is what it lacked. And number one on that list is the lore. Oh my gosh. I have to say, the lore is horrible this season. If you start watching this from season 1 to like season 6, well, from season 1 to season 60, from episode 1 to episode 60 or whatnot, you will not know what a champion level Digimon is. You won't know what a rookie level is, or an ultimate, or a mega level. you won't even know what a passive is or their special ability. Like, something that something that the first season of Digimon isn't given enough credit for in the dub is that when they introduce a Digimon, they also discuss what ability it uses and why it's so dangerous. Like, oh no, that's Shellmon, look out for its Shell Crusher ability or whatever. Like, it's corny, but the entire series is kind of dedicated toward children, so it works. But in this case, so little is explained that I still do not know what the name of this Digimon is. I almost said Dark Tyrannomon, but I seriously doubt that because I remember Dark Tyrannomon stands on 2 legs. But what I really want to know is the Digimon that this guy was smashing, because that looks like Hercules copied Terriermon almost. Like, it takes looking at the rest of the series to properly understand what's going on here. And the reason for that is because the writers this season decided to not do their job, basically. They decided, what if we have Digimon, but we don't have writers? We just have an episodic formula, that's it. We just, like, copy Pokemon, but there's no writers. To the writers' credit, they do know how to make it scary and creepy, but I more so attribute that to Japanese culture and customs with anime. Anime tends to be a lot creepier than most cartoons, and oftentimes they're dubbing it regardless. Like, you would not see this on any anime other than like Yu-Gi-Oh! If it were on 4Kids, or Toonzai, or WBTV, or whatever you watch, Toonami. I think I'm going down the entire list almost. Cartoon Network definitely would not air this. But all in all, I think the show suffers from lacking lore, basically. We aren't even introduced to the Digimon that was capable of causing this much destruction until she's destroyed in less than 10 literal minutes. This is her intro, this is her exit. I know that her wiki says that she has a very short lifetime for a mega level Digimon, so she spends it all trying to be happy that she lives. But every character needs to have an introduction, and every introduction needs to have a character. You can't have one without the other. And what happened this season is that a lot of characters were introduced as filler characters, one and dones for each episode, but they were never properly introduced. They were introduced, but like they weren't given character. They were just like mindless Digimon in a sense. They were diluted. We find out what the Digimon are doing and that they're deluded, but we never find out what drove them to that extent. And my theory to this is actually that Cthulhumon, or Dragomon as I call him, he's a mad priest Digimon that supposedly had enough influence to drive every Digimon mad within their hysteria or whatever their obsession is, and that's what caused them to actually go to the digital world after he had ripped them out of the, that's what caused him to go to the human world, after he had ripped them out of the digital world, because in spite of what the season did, having him disappear in one episode, he still is way too powerful, and he still did almost kill everyone in one episode with just one attack, and that was just his true form before he was teleported away. But another thing about this season that kind of sticks out to me is the fact that it doesn't have a proper explanation of each Digimon. Like, I need to say this real quick, because Terriermon is a direct homage to Digimon Tamers, and you cannot have Digimon like Terriermon in here without referencing Tamers. Like, Terriermon is way too iconic. He's basically the Digimon version of Pikachu, but he doesn't need to be your rat in order to be cool or awesome about it. And I mean, no offense to Pokemon fans. I'm glad Pikachu finally won. I was also watching that fight and it was nice. Finally. But for the most part, when characters show up like here, it comes off more as fan service and less like it's actually revolving around the actual story. And part of the reason I'm saying this is because characters here are not properly introduced. Here we have Hiro's dad, and I have to say something. I'm very disappointed with this show. We see that Hiro's dad disappeared like from the very beginning of the show, like the very first episode. Hiro is a very unrealistic character. He's very flat, he's very bland. When his dad finally shows up, he doesn't run up and hug him or see if he's injured. He stands there and he's just very passive about it. It's almost as if he doesn't actually think of his dad as a person, but more like a video game character who just showed up for the next cutscene. And I view that almost as too literal, like an interpretation. But Another thing that the series actually gets wrong is the realism, and this actually carries very well into the characters themselves and their communication. Let's be honest, it's very cool that this show decided to do holograms and have a different take on things, like Digimon actually being visible and already known by the public if they choose to reveal themselves. But the fact that every Digimon is, to be honest, one-dimensional for each episode, and then they're disposed of and almost never seen of again. Like, you can't tell me that Angoramon reached this Digivolution by being one-dimensional about caring for Ruli. That is how it happened, like, in the story, but if you actually think about it, every time a Digivolution happens in the season before this season, it always has a greater and deeper meaning to it, and one of which is to protect the digital world, of course, and that actually has several different facets to it that demand that Digimon are actually deep characters, and that's part of why the episodic formula failed. Like, when you have characters this awesome just showing up and just defeating enemies in like one episode, it really raises a question. Are you really introducing characters, or are you introducing toys? Because I think this would be an awesome toy, but I know almost nothing about her character. She shows up here, she says some American words, she has some JoJo's Bizarre Adventure poses, like right here, and that's basically it. We never see her again. Most of the time when Digimon digivolve, they have different personalities, like Angoramon showed. In some cases, if they're a virus or vaccine type, they become more angelic or more peaceful or more violent and destructive. But we never get to know any of the other Digivolutions and their personalities aside from like the main ones and their champion levels. And the biggest culprit of this, or the biggest victim, is actually Galus Gamamon. He was 100% destroyed this season. He's cool, he's good. He actually is a good character. He's a virus type that understands that if a Digimon won't stop doing evil, they have to be destroyed, which is something that Hero has a hard time accepting, even if destroying them is counterintuitive to being a hero in the first place, which is kind of the entire dynamic between Galus Gamamon and Hero. But the issue with this is that Galus Gamamon was not given a good or proper introduction. And it's a good thing that he's cool and edgy about it, because dark Digimon don't need introductions. You already know that they're evil and that they don't care, and that kind of is the preset for this and how it goes. But honestly, if you think about it, every Digimon needs an introduction. This guy needed an introduction. His Digivolution would have been very more lackluster if it weren't for the fact that he were introduced several episodes before. And he got one of the best introductions in the entire game. If I'm being the entire Ghost game. But as I want to say, the realism in this show falls flat. Digimon relies critically on one thing each season, and that's realism. It has to be realistic. It has to be a reflection of our world. When Digimon first showed up, like the series itself, it was a reflection of the 20th century digital world internet, like the internet in real life. The internet in real life was janky. We didn't have YouTube yet when Digimon started debuting. It was weird. People were getting used to it. It was funky. It was catchy. It was neat and whatnot. There were several dangers to it that were like personified and exaggerated. Like, people thought of the internet having demonic influences, and we have Eismon here representing that in one part, and we had Devimon literally representing it in another in like the very first season. And the fact is that for each season of Digimon, they have to properly represent the internet as it currently exists in our world in order for us to connect to what's going on in the story. Otherwise, we're like, this isn't our internet, this isn't our world. And this is part of the reason why Digimon Tamers works so well, because it's not futuristic, it's not old-timey when they're still using like payphones as a way to get around. It's modern, it's disturbing, it's jarring how much the characters are like us. And in Digimon Ghost Game, the holograms are a good way of introducing the Digimon without them automatically attacking the digital world. Excuse me for a moment, my cat's demanding my attention. But if I'm being honest, it's not a good way of showing how the Digimon should be like introduced or handled. Like, I don't know how to describe it almost. Well, truth is I do. I'm just afraid to say it almost because of the audience. The fact is that Digimon need more than like a paper model of them introduced to the human world and then copy and paste, this is this Digimon, this is what they do. Like, if I'm being honest, this is the closest that Digimon has come to each Digimon being like, if I'm being blunt here as someone who's part of the furry community, excuse me, this is the closest this series has come to being like furries almost. Everyone has some affinity or something that they want to just take out on random people. And I'm not talking about like the actual furry fandom in real life. I'm talking about what they do online. Like, my gosh, you just cannot find a Digimon here that does not have some affinity of some sorts, that, if that's the word I can use without this getting demonetized. Like, they are obsessed for whatever reason or not with humans, but it falls flat because in this season, the only Digimon that actually get digital partners or Digivices are the ones that are introduced, like Hiro, Ruli, Kyoshiro, and the others and whatnot. The fact is that the other Digimon show up and they're not allowed to actually interact with the human world unless they're being defeated, destroyed, or basically beaten because they were deluded and they have to like stay in their hologram form to not be a danger to anyone else. And to me, this destroyed the realism. The fact that every good Digimon gets to continue existing and every bad Digimon, like Cherrymon here, just disappears for the rest of the show and never comes back. We might never see this guy again. Literally. He literally just got away. He's probably going to come back in 20 or 40 years if that's what the episode translation was of how fast his limbs grow back after they were cut off. And they did not defeat this guy. Even though they want to, like, the show wants us to believe that they did, but Digimon are immortal, so unless you actually take them down for good, they're actually just going to keep either digivolving further or they're going to recover and have even more power. So, honestly, the only way that these Digimon can be seen as being defeated is because it wasn't explained that Digimon basically are immortal, and the only thing that can kill a Digimon is another Digimon. Like, that's just the blunt truth of it. A virus could potentially destroy a Digimon, but the fact is that Digimon just absorb the viruses and become even stronger, which is probably why Gammamon even has so much of the RGB virus within him, or why Cthulhumon was able to digivolve from becoming a virus itself when he first formed. Like, viruses do nothing to them, and these guys can launch nuclear weapons if they ever want to. Like, that was the first plot point of the 2020 reboot, and that says a lot. Okay, so it looks like this is the end of this Tumblr part, and I'm going to have to say, like, for the record, this season actually did not do too well when it comes to how everything is handled, in my opinion. Like, it might seem like I'm being dramatic or that I'm just hating this series, but the fact is that there's a perfect series to compare this to that is a lot different and very, very similar to it, and that is actually Digimon Tamers. Digimon Tamers is a series that also has 3 characters exactly, along with side characters that don't matter as much, who only show up sometimes. They also have a cute character who doesn't know much about the human world or digital world, which is Guilmon. They have a knowledgeable girl, they have a respectable guy who has knowledge about it, which is important. And unlike Kyoshiro, he's not a Luigi, he actually just has an aneurysm whenever something morally goes wrong. Thank you, Henry, if you watch the English dub of this. But the fact is that Digimon Tamers tackled a lot of the things that Digimon Ghost Game did, but better. This season actually managed to be scary without actually trying to be scary. They addressed adult topics, they addressed depression, loss, like pain, suffering. The reason that Digimon Ghost Game falls flat is because at the end of each episode, Hiro is always perfectly fine and emotionless. He's Mario. He takes down a few kingdoms, so long, Bowser, whatever, and then they go on to the next story. And then Angoramon's over there just like completely dissecting and diffusing the tension by adding his comedic one-liners almost. There's nothing funny about them. What's funny is that we're supposed to think they're good, because the fact is that throughout the entire season, they're not actually getting any closer to saving the human or the digital world. They don't even know what's going on for most of the season, and that's why we, the community, don't get an explanation. But Angoramon's always offering this advice, and what it does, it destroys the tension. The thing about horror shows and scary shows and ghost movies, whatever, ghost games, they need tension. Tension is what makes people keep watching the movie. It's what makes people keep being scared. What's going to happen next? The thing about Digimon Tamers that made it so good that everyone liked it is that even though it was scarier than most people were comfortable with, the tension kept bringing people back and showing what's good about the show. But in Digimon Ghost Game, what happens is that the tension is raised, there's a climax, they digivolve, defeat the main enemy, and then the climax is completely left alone. Some of the bad guys actually do create some tension, but when Angoramon and the others say, no, it's fine, they won't be coming back, we know it because we're Digimon who are also knowledgeable about the digital world, even though we won't tell you about anything about it for some reason. Like, it's pretty frustrating. And the worst thing about it is that the Digimon partners do know about the digital world, and they don't tell the Digimon Tamers in this season. They don't tell their human companions anything about it. They don't say anything about it at all. And that just kind of leaves us as the community of this season alienated. We don't see what the digital world is like for it to have such violent or chaotic Digimon. So most of us are probably thinking that it's just like the season 2020 digital world or something. But the fact is that each digital world season is completely different. And I'm not joking about that. We literally did not see the difference between this digital world and the others. Digimon Season 1 was a literal island file that Yggdrasil supposedly created to quarantine Devimon or whatnot. And Digimon Season 2 is the rest of the digital world revealed. And Digimon Season 3 is actually the entire alternate dimension that Season 1 and Season 2 took place in, as they were shows and cartoons that were based and designed in Season 3. And then Digimon Season 4 takes place in like another literal universe. There are planets, stars, moons. Data Squad has Yggdrasil himself, who's practically a literal god there, which means there's a literal multiverse. And the fact is that this is actually pretty crazy. This is actually pretty crazy. It's pretty dumb. It's pretty annoying, honestly. Like, I don't know how to describe it almost, aside from that it's pretty annoying. We never see the digital world. We never get to go to it until the final episode, and nothing's explained. Literally nothing. Galus Gamamon was the only bad guy Digimon who actually persisted throughout the entire show. Let me explain this to you guys in a way that can be understood. This is a champion level Digimon. Champion level Digimon are never supposed to be the biggest threat in the show or the looming threat. Devimon showed up, he was dangerous for 15 episodes, gone. Edamon showed up, ultimate level, 15 episodes, gone. Myotismon, 15 episodes or whatnot, gone. The Dark Masters, 15 episodes, gone. That's the end of like each Digimon level. Champion, Rookie, Mega, and Ultimate is given 15 episodes or an entire arc that goes into how dangerous they are and why they need to be defeated. But what we had here was the champion level Galus Gamamon, the looming threat, if he ever corrupted Gamamon or came out, was given the entire season. So we got robbed. We never got Arcturusmon right here. We never got Proximamon. We never got to see like what happens if Proximamon actually shows up and has to fuse with like Moon Millenniumon or something in order to gain the power to destroy everything just by being born, which is like the main theory I have here. And we're still not even being introduced to like the ultimate level champion, well, the ultimate level Digimon that's going to come from, I assume, Gamamon and the, well, I almost said Gamamon. Galus Gamamon and Kanawisemon, like, I don't know, DNA digivolving or something, because they're probably not exploring or explaining that either. So this really does just come back to the fact that nothing's actually explained. The digital world is not founded, and because the digital world is not founded, we don't know the conditions that created the Digimon. So this is bizarre, it's uncanny, it's hard to actually identify with what's going on because we're never told anything. And the fact is that Digimon as a season and as a show needs to not be episodic. I know this is probably surprising or whatnot for me to say, given that this entire season's episodic and when it was an experiment by the creators and the writers, but the fact is that we have seen from what the season has proven so far that Digimon needs, it absolutely needs to not be episodic. Season 1 was as episodic as it gets. They explore the digital world bit by bit, but they also have a slice of life enemy shows up, defeat them, and then the next episode they explore the digital world bit by bit, and they have another episodic villain defeated. Rinse and repeat, bit by bit, more revealed, bit by bit, more revealed, and this is the pattern that established each season in Digimon. The problem with Ghost Game is that they just continued revealing enemies without explaining anything about it. Most of you who are watching my video, and I guarantee at least 90% of you probably don't know who this guy is or how he caused every evil season of Digimon and every evil person to show up in Digimon, including even like Kurata and the others based on like his evil influence. Like, you won't understand that this guy destroyed almost the entire world just by existing. And you probably won't understand how this guy caused the entirety of Ghost Game, because the fact is nothing's explained. And the reason for that is because this season just dumped the episodic formula. And I don't know what the writers were thinking exactly. I have nothing against them. I'm just upset that they didn't write anything. Because it seems like between fan service and whatnot, we didn't actually get anything of substance. This is basically a giant filler season, while I assume something else is being built for the digital world. But the fact is, this cannot be what we're expecting. Like, this guy cannot show up and be half as awesome as we were expecting. Every Digimon that shows up that's on the darkness side has to reach mega level if they are at the end of the season. This guy cannot show up for like half an episode and then digivolve into Proximimon and nearly destroy or reset the digital world without an explanation. And there's no way to reset the digital world properly without Yggdrasil guiding Proximimon in the first place, because Yggdrasil is the only person with access to the digital code that even enables the digital world to be reset. That's the reason why in Digimon X Evolution, it took Omegamon, and Alphamon, literally attacking Yggdrasil's core in order to reset the digital world. A normal Digimon cannot do that. Like, my gosh, I'm just so frustrated about it. But something else I want to say about why this season actually failed, even though it's a pretty good season and a good introduction if you ignore the lore of the entire show, which is basically like saying Twilight's a good show if you ignore the substance of the movie or whatnot. The fact is that the characters are too bland. Hiro lost his father. His father disappeared in the first episode. I already said this earlier, but the fact is that Hiro's dad is gone. If this were Henry, if this were Takato, if this were Tai, Matt, TK, Sora, Izzy, if this were Kari even, or if this were someone even like Marcus Damon, who was one of the most hard as steel Digimon tamers like in the entire show, or Digimon partners, they actually genuinely show emotions and feelings and when they care about their Digimon and why they're upset. And the fact is that connection, that trauma that they express, that worry that people that they care about are going to be destroyed is important to us as the audience connecting to them. The reason that we all were afraid of Ai's mom when he first showed up is because he looked like he was about to destroy everyone that we cared for in like the 2020 reboot. And the fact is that this guy actually required almost everything that they had at that moment to defeat, or he was going to crush them. They didn't break through his buildings, he was going to destroy them. That's the way the episode would go. But that's just like one example. The fact is that for each character, they all need to show that there's something they care about. And Kiyoshiro cares only about himself. Like, he's a good person. He has good series, he has good hearts. Like, I said hearts. The reason I say hearts is because he's died multiple times. He's basically a cat with 9 lives. Because this season decided not to off a Leomon, as is the tradition of Digimon, Kiyoshiro is the scapegoat this time, and of course he's worried because he literally almost died this episode as well. Almost quite literally. Like, this is almost the equivalent of an overdose on a drug. Like, he's just smiling his mind off, not able to control himself, before he's almost like gone for good thanks to this Digimon. And the fact is, the fact that none of the characters are worried about how they could almost die several times is disturbing. Like, consider Rika. She's the harshest character in Digimon Tamers in like season 3. And she gets scared of when someone's going to die. She cares for people. She expresses worry, not only like for herself, like when the characters do not have character because they're all episodic, the entire series fails because the series has to build up on itself. The fact about every series is that it has to build up on itself, and Digimon Ghost Game decided to not do that. We have plot points that are completely ignored. I showed you guys the tabs earlier. Like, what about this guy? We're never going to get a proper explanation to this guy. Look at the official wiki for this guy. It's empty. There is nothing here. We don't know what to look forward to or what to expect. We don't even know what he's going to do when he shows up. We don't even know what the RGB virus does because there isn't even an explanation for it. I could literally hit back, and here's the actual wiki itself. It's theorized to be a Digimon that can manifest. What does that mean? That it's never been proven? That it hasn't been seen yet? Like, how are we supposed to know what to expect from a Digimon that hasn't shown up yet? Every Digimon has to like be pre-established or something. Look at this guy. He's got some of the biggest lore in the entire season. Lucamon almost destroyed an entire digital world in one season, and he wasn't a virus. Like, he was just a normal Digimon with extremely ordinary powers that became corrupt. And the fact is that most Digimon need an introduction like this. Like, I know that I'm almost going in circles almost when I'm saying this, but the fact is that Moon Millenniumon, the most powerful Darkness Digimon here, got ignored. Zed Millenniumon, the most powerful multiversal Digimon outside of Gaiamon, got brushed off to the side and killed in one episode. Dragomon, who had 20 literal years of unanswered lore and plot points, got brushed off to the side. And that's all we ever got to see of him. We're not even told why the Dark Ocean formed exactly, or how he creates it, or how it manifests. Like, he's here, he's gone in an episode, we don't even know where he actually is. He was just teleported and he's gone. And Proximamon, for those of you who are not aware, and why I'm taking it so seriously that every Digimon needs an introduction, Proximamon's introduction is ruined. Let that sink in for a moment. You probably don't believe what I'm saying here. If Arcturusmon has not been introduced yet, then we will not give Proximamon's introduction properly. The fact is that with every single Digimon, the fact is that they actually need several episodes to show up, to introduce their personality, to show what it is that they lack and what they need that the Tamer or the Digimon partner gives. Every Digivolution is shown what the Digimon partner gives. And to Ruli's credit, she does show what Anguramon's ultimate level needs, which is self-restraint in order to reach its final Digivolution. And like, with Jellymon, she gets Kiyoshiro's support. And with like Gamamon, he gets heroes like determination and whatnot to protect everyone. But the fact is, outside of that, and like the shallow personalities they have, because Digimon are Digimon, we don't actually get introduced to what these Digimon need to Digivolve personally outside of that. Like, each Digimon like has a different mode or a different power or ability that is specially unlocked. And for those of you who might not remember, there's Digimon Season 2020 where we saw that if a Digimon has a good enough bond, they can actually tap into their X evolution form, which is like this extremely powerful form from the movie that no one watched. No offense to anyone, but like, where Garurumon's power up with those metal blades that shoot from his back, were from the X evolution. Like, my gosh, Metal Greymon's power came from his X evolution, and this is because these Digimon literally went beyond what's normal. That normally only takes like exposure to the X virus in order to wipe out a Digimon, and then they survive and develop immunity to it. But with each Digimon, like, the deeper the bond, the more powerful they can become, basically. And what we got here was that each Digimon was powerful enough, but we didn't get the bond required for it. As each episode progressed, because there wasn't any lore, the bonds did not reach, well, they did not expand that much. Kiyoshiro died, Tesla Jellymon, or Thetismon rather, jokes with him about how many times he's died, and the times he died nearly dying, and the time that he was literally almost dragged to death by a Digimon and whatnot. But the fact is that outside of that practical jokes and being brought up for a moment, the Digimon and their partners don't actually share too many moments together that are actually touching to the audience. In other words, this season was too shallow for anyone to actually properly relate to it, and it did not explain enough lore for like the hardcore Digimon fanatics like me to get people interested in it long enough to actually care about the season finale. But to be honest, they could salvage this. They could. But I'm saying based on their current work, it's completely unlikely. The fact is that each ultimate level Digimon, like consider Metal Greymon and how he showed up in season 1. Like he showed up literally several episodes before the end. Arcturusmon is an ultimate level Digimon, or perfect if you're not watching the dub, and he hasn't been introduced yet at all. We may have seen a silhouette of his wing through Kano Wisemon or whatnot at one point. Okay, that was not Kano Wisemon. That was the full Digivolution of Gamamon in one of the recent episodes. Excuse me. My nerd is showing. But the fact is that if a Digimon isn't properly introduced, then we cannot properly care about it. And that's the reason why Arcturusmon has never interested me. That's the reason why I almost throw dirt on Arcturusmon and have this like grudge against it and how much of the fan base looks up to it. I'd sooner look up to like, I don't even know how to describe it. I'd sooner look up to like Gajumon suddenly appearing in the 2020 reboot instead of like Ophanimon or the other humanoid Digivolutions that are their mega level anti-Digivolutions. Seraphimon, now I'm remembering his name. Like, I can respect Seraphimon suddenly showing up better than I can respect Proximamon being hyped for the entire season because his virus, the virus making him up, that's injected in him and driving him to this ultimate level, is infecting the entire digital world. So that's it. The season's kind of gone its course. We're going to have to see how the ending is, because at this point, the ending is not going to be half as awesome as the writers say. The fact is the writers did not do their work, so there isn't any lore to care about. At this point, the season ending is just damage control. Like, I don't even know how to describe it almost, outside of the fact that we were all given what we expected, and then we were given what we didn't need, which was a bunch of filler, a bunch of like Digimon characters like not mattering. The fact is that the side characters get shoved out of the way a lot, and like in all Digimon fashion with each season, the main characters do get the spotlight, but in this season, whenever the other characters are shown, it does not matter. Unless they're good Digimon that are relevant to the next episode, which is episodic, so they never matter, it doesn't matter if they were friends or if they showed up. Or like, we finally see with Dragomon that all the Digimon from the previous episodes that were good finally showed up like and were together, but the fact is that they didn't do anything. So all of our investment into caring about the other Digimon introduced, and like they're finally realizing that they were the ones who were being messed up and not humans that they were attacking, it amounts to nothing. So yeah, this season was a massive disappointment so far, and hopefully this season's going to actually manage to pull itself together. It is good. Let me say it is good. For those of you who may have skipped most of the video, I do respect that because I talk a lot about this. But the fact is that like Digimon like as a whole just deserve better than just being given an episodic formula. Digimon are not one-dimensional monsters that are just shown and then gone. Like, that's the entire reason that we even like care so much more about them among the Digimon community than Pokemon. Because we know that each of them has a personality outside of Pikachu. And I don't know if I can say that without getting copyrighted either by YouTube, because Pikachu only ever says its name. I don't know how the copyright system works with this right now, because it always changes or whatnot. Fact is, Digimon are not shallow creatures, so a shallow episodic formula has caused the entire series, well, this entire season, to just like not work out as a whole. So That's my honest thoughts about this. I hope they do fix it by like showing what the Digimon world can be in the next season. If they do finally show the digital world in another season, like if Digimon Ghost Game's going on hiatus, I do think that they need to explain a metric ton of papers more than they have actually given to everyone, because we are not told much of anything. Fact is, wow. I keep saying the fact is that we actually just got dropped. We got Pokemoned. We got essentially left for a younger, more impressionable audience to see these cool, colorful characters with no explanation. And if this continues, like if this season were successful, and I'm glad it's not, mind you, we might never get another unepisodic Digimon season ever again. Like, Pokemon showed us just how deep that rabbit hole can be when it's done properly, and they've got a pretty good formula to copy. And I'm not saying Digimon might copy Pokemon. They definitely don't, even though they're both based on Tamagotchi. But if push ever came to shove and the company cared more about money, which is what shallow products like this kind of turn into, like, this might be the downfall of Digimon if they just keep going on with this formula, and it needs to stop. Like, it needs to just stop. And if you guys know the name of this Digimon, which I still don't know the name of, I think it's Allosaurusmon, actually, because I think, wow. Yeah, I think it's Allosaurusmon or Allosaurmon or something. I would appreciate if you just type it in the comments, because I seriously research this stuff, because I like going to each season and saying what's going to happen ahead of time based on pre-existing information. It's like I'm psychic. And I just love that feeling because it makes it cooler for like you guys to know what's happening before it happens. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I've even run out of music. Wow, my gosh. But in any case, yeah, that's it. So I will see you all in the next video, and hopefully when the season finally premieres, we're going to get some serious explanation, because we need it at this point. See ya.